In the end, what we want to do here is we want to wrap this list item with transition because we want to animate the addition and removal of list items. But we'll have a problem. It's not just one list item. Because of v4, we'll have multiple list items here. And therefore transition won't work because transition is there to work with one element. But Vue has got us covered. It has the transition group component in addition to transition. Transition group, as the name suggests, is there to work with multiple elements, and it can also animate multiple elements at the same time. So it's great for lists, where in this case we only add or remove one user at the same time. But of course you could have other lists where multiple items are added or removed at the same time. And that is why transition group is great for lists. It is capable of animating individual list items, but also multiple items at the same time. There's one important thing you gotta know about transition group though. Transition, the component we used before, in the end renders no element to the DOM. It's just here in the template to give Vue some instructions, but you don't see it in the actual DOM. If we inspect show users, which is the button we're animating, there is no transition component here in the DOM. Now that will be different for this list and transition group though. Transition group will render an element to the DOM in the end. And you can control which element that is by giving it the tag prop. And here we want an unordered list. So we in the end replace our wrapper here, the unordered list, with transition group, giving it a tag of UL. And you can use any valid HTML element here. You can also use a custom component here. Now besides that, it works pretty much like transition though. It also adds those CSS classes to the elements which are added or removed. It dives into the CSS code to see how long an animation takes. So here I'll add the name prop and give it a name of user list. And that is then the prefix in front of the enter from, enter active, enter to classes, everything you already learned about. So here in my styling, I will now add user list enter from, copy that, and then also add enter active and enter to. And now as so often, it's totally up to you what you want to add here. I will add an opacity of 0 here and transform my items to translate them along the x-axis and move it a little bit further to the left. And that's my starting position when an item is added. In enter to, I will then set this to 0 and the opacity to 1, of course. And in enter active, we can add the transition property and watch for changes in all CSS properties which might change. And in this case, only opacity and transform will change. And then add a duration, and I'll go for 1 second here, and then also a easing function, and I'll go for ease out. And if we do that, you will see, if I reload and I add Praveen, if I click add user, this is a smooth animation for adding this element. Now, of course, we also get animations for removing elements. For that, I'll in the end just copy my enter classes and add my leave classes here. So leave from, leave to, leave active. And I want to leave from opacity 1 and no change on the x-axis. And therefore, we can also merge this with the enter to class because it's the same. On leave active, I want to have a ease in easing function instead of ease out. And on leave 2, I want to go to an opacity of 0, but then move it 30 pixels to the right. So it's not the same as the enter from state. There we had minus 30 pixels. Here I have plus 30 pixels. If I do that and save this, if I click an item, You see, it's animated out like this. Which is nice, but you might notice that the list jumps. When an item is removed, the other elements snap in place thereafter. And thankfully, Vue actually has a solution for that as well. It helps us avoid such snapping.